Hi class, there was a question today about whether a subclass reference can be used to access the superclass version of a method. So here's what I mean. Let's say we have a class A, right? And oops, this is still a docstring, I guess. Okay, class A, and let's say it has a function called def, and all that function does, it needs to take in self, of course, all that function does is print super, because this is the superclass version. Then we're going to have another class called B that extends A. And it is going to, I say extends, it's a subclass of A, and it is going to print sub. It's the derived class. So this is the base class or superclass, this is the subclass or derived class. Alright, so if we create a reference, lowercase a, to a capital A class object, and we can say a dot do the f thing and print that out, and it writes super. If we create a reference lowercase b to a subclass object and we say b dot f, it's going to do sub. Right? And now, how can we use this b reference to somehow do whatever a typically does? In the old style of things, I'm not sure how it works, but let's say this. There is a method, there's a function called super. You say I type in super and it's going to change the font because it recognizes that that is a built-in keyword, right? Super is something that it already knows about. It's a function that is able to get the reference to the superclass part of an object, right? So we want the A part of this lowercase b object. Even though it's a b object, its superclass is A, and so it has, in some sense, this thing, even though it's a b, that means it is also an A. And we want the reference to that A part of it that can print super. I need to do one thing. I need to make, in order to make this work, I need A to be a subclass of the superclass of everything called object. Object is another keyword. It is the superclass of all of our classes. Kind of like object in Java, capital object in Java. Okay, so as long as our A is a subclass of object, it is what's called a new style class, and we get some certain functionality that we wouldn't have otherwise. So let's go ahead and define this. So our B class object can only do that. But if we use the super method, we can say we want to get the superclass of B version of, we want a reference to, let's see, how do we put this? We want a reference to the superclass of B, part of the object that's referred to by B. Okay, so this is going to return a reference, and we can make that reference do superclass things. So maybe this is just what to remember, is if you want to get a lowercase, or a reference to a subclass object, do the superclass thing, then you use the super function. You put in the type of the object, in this case B, the reference, lowercase b, because that's the thing that we want to invoke the method on, and we want it to do the f method, but from the superclass of b, not from b itself. I think that actually, technically, this maybe can be a, because no, I guess not. Yeah, super object has no attribute f, so let's just put it that way. Yeah, I guess it's the superclass of type b, which is a. Yeah, we want that, but we want the object referred to by b to be doing it, and it's f. So that's how you get the superclass version of a method. Sorry if the Y is not super clear. It's kind of an unusual syntax, and I haven't played with it too much. You're only going to have to use this in one place. And I mean, how often is this really used? It's going to be used when we get to GUIs, and you're going to do this inside the subclass version of an object to call the superclass initializer. So maybe I should talk about that and make this a two-part video. So let's say part 2 of the video is looking at the init method of this guy here, and so let's print initializing super, and then we're going to have a init method of b. Now in C++ and Java, whenever you create a subclass version of the object, the superclass constructor runs. You might remember that. But that is not exactly the case in Python, at least not it's a little bit different. Okay, so when we create this B object, it does create, in a sense, a superclass part of it. That's how calling this fancy thing can get the the derived superclass method to run. It is object that's referred to by B, which is indeed a B type object, a subclass type object, yet it can do the super thing because inside of it, in a sense, there is a part of it that is of the superclass. But when I create an instance of B that does not call the initializer of the superclass. So let's watch this. When I create an instance of class B, the derived class, it will print out initializing sub because the B's init method runs, but the A's init method will not run. Okay, initializing sub. Only if I create an A reference or an A object is it going to initialize the superclass. Now, if I wanted to call and actually initialize the superclass part of it, because let's say that the superclass part has some instance variables that I want it to have, right? We could be declaring self dot, lowercase a gets 10, and I want the B thing to have that as well. If I run the code as it is, b.a, that doesn't exist. B objects don't have a. But if I want to call the superclass of B's initializer, so in this case, the reference is self, and I'm going to call it, and I'm going to call the init method explicitly. You can do that. Right? You don't want to create a separate object. You just want to call this object's superclass init method, and then it actually initializes the super part, and now our B object also has this A attribute. And so we're going to see explicitly this in GUIs. So what I was getting at there is, here's an example use of the super, and it's always going to look basically just like this, and we're only going to put it in a init. That's the only way you're going to use it in this class, and I've never used it outside this class, and I've done quite a bit of Python programming, so it's not super. If you need it, you'll learn it then, but for now you don't need to learn it. And but let's see. But the other point was that the init method for the superclass does not run when you create a subclass object.